Hey guys, it's Darwin, and today I want to finally give you a full review of my Zpacks Altaplex. Alright, so typically I like to wait quite some time before I review a new tent that I've been using on the trail. I like to get about 1,000 miles on it or 50 nights before I really talk about what I liked and what I didn't like and the pros and the cons of using it. But with as crazy as this year has been, having to get off of the AT early, I might not be able to go up and do my next through hike. I have been lucky enough to get this out in a lot of different environments, weather situations on different trails since I've had it in December. So I feel pretty confident about giving a full review and my final thoughts on the Altaplex. If you haven't been following along here on the channel, I did go on a quest for the perfect tent, and I tried a bunch of different stuff over the past year, and I landed on this. Now I won't go into all of that in this video, but if you do want to find out more about that quest, I'll put the link to the video up here. And before we jump into the review, I gotta say, I am not sponsored by Zpacks. They didn't pay me to make this, so this isn't an advertisement for Zpacks, and I did buy this tent at full price with my own money. Come to think of it, every single piece of Zpacks gear that I currently own, I bought at full price. So let's go over the specs. The Zpacks Altaplex is a one-person single pole tent that is not freestanding and does require tension to pitch it. It's made out of a DCF fabric that is seam taped, so it helps with weather sealing. The Altaplex is fully enclosed, which means it has a no-seam bug net completely surrounding the perimeter and an 8-inch bathtub floor. It has one huge rainbow zipper door and a single vestibule with double storm doors. What makes the Altaplex different than other tents is it has a super tall peak, so it does require a trekking pole or a standalone pole that can go up to 58 inches and requires at least 6 stakes to set it up. I personally use 8 to get as much room as I possibly can. The weight on the production model of the Altaplex comes in at 15.4 ounces, and the price for this bad boy is $585. All right, so usually this is the part of my review where I talk about the pros and the cons and what I like and what I don't like. But honestly, I like just about everything with this tent. It did mark off all of the boxes of what I was personally looking for in a quote-unquote perfect tent. It works for me. So I have no real complaints about it. It's been great for what I need it for. Sure, I could talk about the fact that it's expensive, or the fact that it sucks that you got to use an extra long trekking pole to set it up, or the fact that the company that makes it doesn't necessarily share the same ethics and ideas and passions about the outdoor community that I do, but I digress. Instead of talking about the pros and the cons and what I like and what I don't like, I want to answer some of the most commonly asked questions that I've seen about the Altaplex. How easy is it to set up? It's pretty damn easy. Actually, this is probably the easiest pitching tent that I've ever used once I figured out the perfect pitch. I did make a video talking about how to perfectly pitch this tent along with basically every other single trekking pole tent on the market. If you want to check that video out, I'll put it up here. But once I figured out how to just put down those 2 back corners first, put the trekking pole in the center and make a triangle, it pitches perfectly every single time. Now, with that being said, you do need a nice flat ground because it is a tension tent and it doesn't have a freestanding structure. So to get as much wall space as you possibly can, it does require you to really select your campsite. But overall, it's pretty easy to set up. How does it handle rain and storms? Well, as far as rain goes, the reason that I use DCF tents, whether it's this tent or any of the other DCF tents that I've ever used, is because DCF is great in rain. You see, sil nylon will actually suck up water and start to sag, where DCF kind of repels the rain. It kind of bounces off the material and it can hold its shape when it's under a heavy load from the water. So as far as rain goes, it's phenomenal in the rain. Out on the AT, I had tons of super rainy days and wet nights, and I stayed dry every single night inside of this tent. As far as Storms, I haven't had it in any crazy storm, but I have had it up at some higher peaks out here in Arizona at about 9,000 feet with about 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, and it held up great. Again, that all comes down to how you're setting it up, where you're setting it up, and making sure that you're not just putting it out in the open wind. But as far as I'm concerned, it does great in the rain and it does great in storms. How tall of a hiker can fit inside of the Altaplex? Well, Zpacks says that somebody up to 6'6" can fit inside of this tent. I don't think so. I'm 6'1" and on a 3-inch pad with a 20-degree quilt. I don't touch the wall, but if I was like 6'4", I would definitely be touching the wall. Personally, I would say that if you are over 6'3", this tent is still not going to be long enough for you. You know, it is definitely a longer tent. With the taller peak, the walls do come out and it allows you more footroom. And maybe you're on a thinner pad, maybe you're on a closed cell foam pad, you might be able to get away with it. But if you're like me, if you're on a thicker pad, you're using a thicker quilt, 6'6", 6'5", I don't think so. How does it handle condensation? Well, whether it is out on the AT where it's super condensation-y or out here in Arizona where it's super dry, condensation is just something that you deal with a single wall tent. It doesn't matter if it's made of DCF, if it's made of cell nylon, if it's Zpacks, or if it's tarp tent. Condensation is just a thing that you have to deal with when you choose to go with something that is single wall. So overall, the condensation with this tent compared to, say, my Plexamid or my Duplex or my Hexamid, I found that this actually does better with condensation because of one thing, because the peak is taller, so it creates more headroom and more airflow inside of the tent. Now, does that mean there's no condensation? No, it definitely still gets it. But I have noticed less condensation when using the Altaplex versus some of those other single wall, single trekking pole tents. And then the last question that I've been getting from a bunch of you guys, and the one that I've been asking myself, is this my perfect tent? No, there's no such thing as a perfect tent. There's no such thing as my perfect tent. Like I said, it does mark off all of the boxes of what I'm looking for right now. It was great out on the AT. It's been great here in Arizona doing some of the backpacking trips that I've been doing. And hopefully it'll be great if I get to go do the Colorado Trail or the Great Divide Trail, hopefully. But no, it's not my perfect tent. I just don't think there's any such thing as a perfect tent or any perfect piece of gear. I'm going to be doing some bike packing trips at the end of this year, and right now I can't find a single standalone pole that goes up to 58 inches, so it's not going to be perfect for that. I'm probably going to have to go back to using a tarp or some other shelter. So no, it is not a perfect tent, but for what I've been using it for, being out on the AT, being out here, possibly going up and doing the Great Divide Trail, it's been pretty damn good. So hopefully this video helped answer some of your questions about the Zpacks Altaplex, and maybe some of my recommendations, maybe some of my info will help you decide if it's gonna be a good tent for you or not. Speaking of that, what is your perfect tent right now? What have you been using? What have you been testing? Or what are you thinking about getting to test for the rest of this year? Leave me something down below and let me know your thoughts. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.